Hello, friends. Welcome to this third part of today's session where we are talking about how digital ecology is changing the world, how digital ecology is out there to change the learning, education, pedagogy, teaching, all the fields related to the academics are in some form or the other are going to be changed by digital changes in the world, ecology, digital ecology that is coming up is that's going to be changed by it. In this third part, we are going to discuss how different subjects, different domains are going to see the fruits of digital ecology. I have already talked about certain things. Let us try to first see what things we have already talked about. My last session, I discussed, in my first session, I discussed about what digitalization is, what effects it is bringing in. Then we talked about post-humanism, that how philosophically in last 400-500 years we have moved on from Renaissance to a stage where we can say that we have moved to post-humanism. Time and again, I have been talking about the three variants: humans, vegetation, and animals, and how they are now coming on the same platform, becoming equally important. And you see it around you, and you'll find there are already ample examples coming into it. Now, in this session, I'll be talking about what new fields are coming up. One major new field that I am aware of is coming up is called digital humanities. It is primarily where the twain meet: digital ecology and humanities, subjects related in humanities, languages, ethics, linguistics, literature. These are generally humanities, what we call humanities in general. So how library and information sciences, archives, even to some extent history, though of course there is a discussion whether history should be social science or a humanities, but it has its impacts. Digital humanities counts history as part of humanities. I'll come and talk this in detail. And how robots and machines, they are not just bots that are going to teach students, but there are other things that are happening in different domains that are done by robots and machines: artificial intelligence, machine learning, internet of things. These are the buzzwords. You have to agree that they are entering into your and my domain. And how they are changing the domain, I'm trying to discuss some domains in in this session. So finally, when I say my domain, I'll be trying to look at how a different domain is being affected by it. So first, as I promised you, that I am an Amitav Ghosh scholar, and I would like to discuss. If you are a student of literature, it might be easy for you to associate. But even if you are not a student of literature, you will be surprised about the things that Amitav Ghosh discusses in his works. You will be surprised to know that Amitav Ghosh is one of those who have already always talked about, written about the issue that why everything has to be anthropomorphocentric, why we have given an outstanding importance to human beings. There are things which are beyond human control, and things that have actually attributed. Ecology is one thing. In his books, in his novels, if you have read or heard about novels like Glass Palace, novels like Hungry Tide, novels like his Ibis trilogy, he talks a lot about how depleting ecology, especially Sundarban ecology, if you are aware of it. He talks a lot about it, in detail about it, that how this is affecting human life. And then there is a famous reference, I already introduced this to you, MSH6. It's the short form is, this is actually a library card number of a letter found in American library. As you know, librarians do this tagging on everything. So the tagging is MS, that is manuscript, handwritten letter. H. handwritten, and it is entry number 6. Actually, it is a letter written by a merchant at that point of time who happens to be in Algeria, in Egypt, in northern Africa, or southern Asia, or Eurasia, what you say. And he's writing letter to somebody in Mangalore in India. What is important is the year. The letter is written in 1139, 1141. Now this is not a big letter, 2, 3, 4 pages letter. And among other things, there is a discussion about, it is actually a discussion between two commercial entities, two people who are commercially attached to each other. And actually one of the there are two people, one is in Algeria, another is in India, and he's asking about how to I'm sending some, please send me some jaggery, send me some, I am sending back this and that, and you send me clove, you send me nutmeg, you send me other things. Like this one letter, since it has been unearthed, and it has been unearthed because of the digitization of documents, this letter breaks down so many things. Now you would find it interesting what things it breaks down. The letter proves a point that even in the year 1140, there was a trade going on between Africa, northern Africa, and India. So the whole discussion around Vasco da Gama and Columbus, Vasco da Gama finding or discovering the sea route to India is actually dismantled at just one appearance of letter. So you see, this letter is not a simple letter. And because of digitization, because of digital procurement of such documents, and then circulation of them, it becomes so easy to prove about cultural and ethnographical evidence. And Amitav Ghosh has used it in his couple of books. One of the most important book is In an Antique Land, where he has used it. So you see, it's of course human intervention, but again, a letter can become an evidence to changing histories, and how imperial history has been focusing on Vasco da Gama as discoverer, and all such things come to question, and we come to look at it from a different possible angles. Then in 2015-16, Amitav Ghosh came out with a book called The Great Derangement. And there is no human character in it. Of course, there are fringe characters, human characters in the book, but the main character in this book is environment, depletion of environment. And it's a full-length book, and you will be surprised to know that even author's voice, of course, author's voice is present, but the central figure is environment. And it's of course, a literary work, a non-fictional work, but a full-length work where there is no discussion of human beings, but discussion of how nature is depleting and how it is going to affect human beings. Then last year, or if I'm not wrong, in 2019, Amitav Ghosh came out with a book called Gun Island. And he talks about now this 400-500 years idea, the idea before Renaissance and post-humanism, because Amitav Ghosh in this book feels that there were cold periods up to 14th, 15th century, and then started some heating of the planet Earth, and that created more spaces. But along with it, you see, there is lot of reclamation have been done. Places like Bombay, New York, Mumbai, if you allow me that. They have been created on reclamation, and now we are looking at it, that glaciers are now thawing, and a lot of water, new water is coming up in the oceans, and it actually scares us that we might be drowned. Finally, another book that is expected in October of 2021, that is Nutmeg's Curse. That now he is moving back to folklore. The Gun Island is also based on a Bon Bibi folklore in Bengali. Similarly, Nutmeg's Curse We expect it to be a book on some folklore where some nutmeg, as you know, is a masala that we use. I don't know much about it, but find out, you will find out more. So what I'm trying to say is that this digital ecology, this change of post-human scenario is affecting us. It bringing us new authors, new writers, and new writings to us. And when I say new writings, it doesn't mean that only language and literature are going to change. We all know that literature only reflects life. So whatever is happening in social conditions in society is reflected in literature. So society is changing, our life is changing, and so literature is changing. You may not be a student of literature, you may not be a student of languages, but you all are students of life in some form or other, whatever subject, whatever teaching, whatever pedagogy, whatever language, whatever level, school, college, university you may be teaching, but we all are first students of life, and then we have our domains. And I've already discussed in detail that domains are now breaking down, and it is becoming multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary. So these words might be coming every day, day in, day out. You might have heard it 10 times in your FIP, and you will keep hearing it throughout the FIP. Everybody will talk about it. What do they mean? I'm trying to delve deep into it, and I have been giving you some examples of it. So Amitav Ghosh is a wonderful example. You can catch it from him that things are becoming multidisciplinary, things are going beyond human, and that's where we need to understand something called the topic that I already introduced to you, digital humanities. What do we mean by digital humanities? As I told you, that digital humanities is actually where humanities and digital ecology meet. As you can read it in your screen as well, it is about eclectic electronic sources in humanities. Eclectic coming from different sources, electronic sources. Digital humanities refers to new modes of scholarship and institutional units for collaborative, transdisciplinary, and computationally engaged research, teaching, and publication. It sounds easy when you put it in definition, but the scope is seriously big. You don't know how big it is going to end up. We are just guessing at this point of time that it's going to be a big thing. How big it's going to be, it's yet to be seen. Perhaps in next 5-10 years we will be able to understand the whole gamut it refers to, but it talks about that it's going to change research, teaching, and publication. Various sources are going to change. I'll be talking more about it in my next slides and towards the later part of this final session. But it has already changed archives, LIS, and history. Archives, you all know LIS, as you know, is Library and Information Sciences. 10 years back, when you needed an article from a journal, it was a tough job. 20-30 years back, it was a terrible job. You need to have access to the library need to have access to that journal. That journal will be published somewhere in, say, New York, and will take time to reach you. And then you need to have, if you do not have subscription, you have to find a library where it has subscription. It was a seriously terrible job. Now you have a, if you have DOI, digital object identification number, you can locate any object. Object, I say, journal, any article in journal. Similarly, history, things have been digitized. Project Gutenberg, Google Books are in the process of making digital copy of practically every single book that is published in the world. Yes, I mean it. I'm saying it. I'm saying it in so many words. If you heard it right. Project Gutenberg and Google Books, their aim is that by the year 2030, every single book that exists on this earth in physical copy should have a digital copy as well. Project Gutenberg is more important and interesting because it provides free of cost books that were published up to the beginning of 20th century. They do not have a copyright issue, so all those books have been digitized and presented at Google and Project Gutenberg, find out how many books of your subject are there. Similarly, LIS, I told you how journal access of journals is important and how it has changed digital humanities, digitization, how it has changed. Today, maybe if you have studied and educated and did your research in 21st century, maybe it might sound interesting to you that how world existed in analog form, how people used to find journals in 20th century. Because now it has become that easy and things are coming up. Open access is becoming the best buzzword. More and more efforts are being done that every journal becomes an open access. I don't know how long it will take. I do not know whether they will be successful, but I am sure that we are not far from the day where every access either will be free, or if it is not free, there will be possibilities of accessing it through some bypasses. Think of music. I don't know how many of you have bought cassettes and CDs and those forms where music, ghazals and film music were available in cassettes and you had to pay for it and buy it. And then things started changing. When the MP3 format came, then even then there were pen drives being sold and etc. Now practically music can be accessed free of cost. You need to have some access to some applications, and I don't think that anybody buys music now, though I don't know. I'm not much into music. I'm not a student of music, so I don't know whether should I comment on this or not. But at least as a user, you all, how many of you ever pay for music now? So similarly, journals, articles, books, we are moving in a phase, we are entering into a phase where printed books, physical copy would become an archival value. I remember 10 years back or something, somebody said that books will become there will be keepsakes, that somebody, you have a book's physical copy, so it will be like a memorabilia, it will be like something that is a remembrance or something like this. So digital humanities is already effective in affecting languages and literatures. I have been talking a lot about literature, so I'll move on. In language literature, it affects production, access, reception, research, practically all fields of it. Now it is, literature is becoming interactive, lively and participative. I'll just take a minute to explain what I mean by this. That when we talk of literature, now authors write one chapter and leave it in a public space, and readers can participate in it and they can reflect whether they are happy with the way story is going or not, or how would they like to make this story move forward. And the author has the possibility of changing his stories, so it becomes lively, interactive. And more literature is now becoming like a comic book strip, where novels are published in graphical forms, not in graphical details, but in graphical forms. Visualizations have become, they are more and more becoming films and web series. The other day I was listening to somebody very interesting. He said that now novels are published in a way as if they are pre-script to a web series or a film. Means people like Chetan Bhagat already know that when I write a novel, first I'll sell it as a novel and then it will be made a film or a web series on it. It will become a pre-script kind of thing. But you have to remember two things. The last two lines are very important. First is, in terms of technique, it is born out of big data analysis. And in terms of content, it has its inception in post-human philosophical age. I have talked in detail a lot about post-human philosophical age, so I'm not talking about it. Let me make it clear, what do I mean by when I say big data analysis. Perhaps the easiest example or the most ubiquitous example happens to be of Aadhaar card information. If the UIDAI, the authority that has its data access to your Aadhaar card information, your biometrics, etc. By a single click, it can find out how many people have their birthdays on 5th of September, like how many of them shared birthday with with Teachers' Day, Swami, with the date of our the second Prime Minister, President of India, on whose birthday we celebrate the Teachers' Day. So by single click, you can find out that out of 130 crore people in India, how many of them share the date of birth with Shri Radhakrishnan ji, or for that matter, with our present Prime Minister, or for that matter, you and me and anybody else. Just a single click. So think of a possibility that big data analysis brings out. How many Indians have their eyes colors is black or hazel or brown or ice gray? See, within seconds the data will be presented on the screen, and maybe people and their information will be brought out. So that's what I mean when I say big data analysis, and your and my subjects are going to change by it. How? Maybe it depends on particular subject. Now, what things it has brought to other subjects and domains. Gaming theory is becoming important. We have started taking life as a game. Video games have taken over the seriousness, somberness of life. I already talked about the options and endless narrative. Interactive fiction I've already talked about. Just two things in this slide would make an interesting reading. One is that how machine simulates writing, how there are machines which are creating sonnets, machines that are writing sonnets, and machines that are writing poems, and how artificial intelligence is imagining. I've already talked about that there is a novel written by machine, a GPS camera, a microphone, a headphone was attached to a driverless car on the roof of driverless car, and the car drove from New York to San Francisco, and whatever sounds, whatever visuals it captured was considered to be a novel written by, and then you can transform these sounds into words. You already know hundreds of applications now presenting where your books are read. So reading books is one thing, but then an audio can be converted into text. So this way, this novel was converted into text. So this was how a book is being written by machine. I know it sounds obscure and sometimes even obnoxious, but this is happening and it is entering into all fields. You agree to it or not, you are mentally prepared for it or not, is altogether different issue. My purpose through this all these three sessions was to create a kind of orientation to you that in next 10-20 years you are going to see these things, and you be prepared with your own subject, with your own topic, with your own researches. You know that this is going to happen and you are ready to do this kind of analysis. Now this is, and I have put in an analysis done by a tool called Voyant. Voyant is a tool that in which if you put in a text, if you upload a file, it analyzes the text, that which are the words which are used again and again in this. It makes a graphical presentation of this. Now if you are a student of language, maybe this is in English, but now we are not from day far from where other languages like Hindi, Punjabi, Sanskrit, all Indian languages, Assamese and Bangla and Kannada and Telugu and Tamil and all Marathi and Gujarati, all languages will be able to do this kind of analysis. So from a text of say 500 pages, maybe 2 lakh alphabets or words, within seconds the machine makes this analysis to you. So you know the theme. This is Vandana Shiva's book Staying Alive that I'm showing you in my Voyant tool, that you see how many times the important words are women, water, nature, work, food. So you know what this book is all about. This is not, Vandana Shiva's book is not about literature. Vandana Shiva's book is perhaps a sociology, perhaps an economics, perhaps a water conservation, perhaps ecology, perhaps environment. So in so many subjects already into a multidisciplinary stage, And how do you do the analysis? The machine does the analysis for you. If you are ready to handle this, this is a tool called Voyant, Voyant, Voyant. So you need to go to the voyant.tool.org, voyant-tool.org. So you go to voyanttool.org, and there is a space. You can bring out a text from Gutenberg or Google Books, or they already have some text presented there, and you can do the analysis. Now, whichever field you come from, suppose before you start reading a book, you want to know what this book is all about, you can easily do a Voyant analysis. So it will tell you which are the important area this book handles. And then it does a kind of analysis. You can find out where these words are occurring on which page, on which text side. So tools like this are going to make analysis, reading, research in whatever field you have. For example, I'm giving you an example of reading any book from any domain, not only language, not only literature, but any book that you can do analysis, you need to do it yourself. Go to, I told you, voyanttool.org, and you will find many more possibilities. You need to use it. A teacher needs to use it for his class, for his own research, for his other possibilities. Now, let us try to understand in what it means in different fields, in different streams. History, I've already given you examples. Political science is as a narrative, as a book, you can use it. For political science, it will find out how one rule, one politics, one system is, and archives are going to help political science. Similarly, public administration, the UID example that I was giving, the Aadhaar card example, is an example of public administration itself. Similarly, sociology, you find out which places are actually demographic details, that people living in which area speak which language, and you will be surprised that there will be pockets of people speaking languages. And similarly, you will find so many possible analysis. Anthropology, again, how human beings have lived from one place to another. Suddenly you will find that cities on the river banks have more people. Why? You all know the background. But digital humanities or digital tools will make it more easy. Similarly, economics, psychology, philosophy, all these fields, you have to find out how I can make use of these tools. They have tools available. They have digital entries into it. For example, graphical representation in economics. Machine makes better graphs, pie charts, and all these things which make things easy. And you can very easily make two comparisons for sake of economics. That GDP has gone down this much in this area and in this point of time, and how much inflation has taken place. So computational analysis will make it so much easy. Similarly, psychometric tests, philosophical issues, discussions, and archives can help you in your own subject if you have one of these subjects as your domain. As far as commerce and management, you already know that there are algorithms now which are predicting stock market, and more often than not their predictions are correct. You already have heard about digital marketing and how it has changed the whole concept of marketing, advertisement, and other spaces. The reach to the customer, the access to the resources, the access to the raw material, the access to the finished products, they have all changed, and they have done a great service to commerce and management. You already know something called online market, online purchase, online buying. We all do it in every day of our life. So I need not tell you about this. This is something very simple. And you need to understand that this is happening every day, day in, day out. And you just need to look around, and you'll find hundreds of possibilities of into commerce and management. Perhaps these are the two fields which have maximum best fruits of digitization. So I do not come from the field, but I can see that the most vibrant use has been done by the management. That how see communication management and other fields of MIS and other, they have benefited from digitization. So you know it already, but it's not going to stop here. It's going to go on for years altogether. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. You all know that how now virtual labs are being created, how simulations are being done, how you have Alexas at your back, and how mathematical terms are being now becoming easy for to be taught, to be communicated, to be understood, to be accessed. The other, in my other session, I was talking about examples about 3D printers. So that's happening. You need to focus on your field and find out that what fruits my subject is going to gain. You just need to focus and you'll find out hundreds of possible examples that are happening in your field. Last but not the least is what we call arts. Why I'm saying last but least? Because generally technical things come towards the end, to the music, sculpture, things like painting. So music, I already talked about how MP3 and formats and digital formats have changed music. How now you can easily compare two musics. How can you can raise the tempo just by machines. You can reach the pitch just by machine mixing and all. Sculptors, I would like to comment something very interesting. 3D painting has changed it a lot, and 3D printers have changed a lot of things in it. So you need to just look at possibilities, that how 3D printing has shifted the whole scenario. Now you can see a real sculptor in 3D image, which was otherwise possible. For example, you want to see Statue of Liberty. You need not go to actual Statue of Liberty. You need not go to Manhattan and sit in a ship and reach the Statue of Liberty to see it now. You can see a 3D version of it. Similarly, Statue of Unity, you can easily see a 3D image of it and how it looks like from a drone, how it looks like from ground, how it looks like from a from an airplane, and so on. So I'm back to where I started. I am back to the pair of shoes by Van Gogh. So that's where we started. So how digital technology has changed even a place like painting. I don't know whether what researches have been done on Mona Lisa, but I'm sure there must have been some researches already taken place for Mona Lisa as well. So friends, with this we come to the end of our third and final session. I would just like to comment, say that sow the seeds and in time reap the fruits. With you, we can take the digitization and digital ecology more into our domains. Whatever your domain is, find out. Do researches. The easiest is to do a Google search. For example, suppose psychology is my subject. Just go to Google and find out digital tools in psychology, digital tools for psychometric tests, digital tools, 100 possibilities. Whatever your subject is, just do a Google search and you will surprise. You will simply go beyond my session, because I'm still an outsider. I'm focused and I am situated in literature and language. So however hard I may do, I may not have the understanding of your subject and domain. You have it, you find out, you have to do that research, and you will definitely be rewarded. You will definitely have oranges and apples of your fruit. With this, I come to conclude. Thank you very much for listening to me patiently. I hope you will make use of these sessions, and I hope I have made some positive contribution to your already existing knowledge, and you'll be able to move ahead from here. You'll make use of it. Thank you very much.